These days, in the vast majority of poker situations, I have a big problem with mixing, with RNG use, with trying to achieve a certain frequency of different actions with the same hand. I think that this is a flawed approach to the game. I think that the delusion that there's some sort of causal link between hitting a certain frequency and maximizing EV is just that. I think it's a delusion. In reality, I think that there's a front runner line. I think there's one line that's better than the others in most spots against our human opponents. I'd go as far to say almost all spots, especially after the flop from the turn onwards. And I think that we can try and find the best line. I think if you revert to mixing, you're either trying to copy a solver or it's a cop-out in most situations. And I have a very hard time accepting the premise that the highest EV strategy can be a mix between two different options against a human. I believe that against a human in almost all spots, the highest EV strategy is to take just one line all the time, the best line. And I believe that in most situations, the repercussions of not hiding behind that veil of balance, of actually just trying to do the front runner line, are minimal to none. In today's video, I'm going to show you a session I played where I could have mixed in a bunch of spots. I chose not to. I chose to take a pure action because I believed it was best, and I hope it can inspire you to do the same. If you like what you see, it's carrotcorner.com. All of our stuff, check out after the video. Let me show you what I mean. Let me try and convince you that you should put that RNG away, possibly forever. Let's go. Let's take a look. Okay, so we have the King Jack offsuit here. We've been 3-bet by the small blind, and you might look at this spot and think, well, this is bog standard. It doesn't really matter what you do. Everything's close. You could call, you could fold, you could 4-bet. I think there's a clear front runner play here, and I'll explain why. Let's have a look first at the theory of what you're supposed to do in a spot like this. This is actually the continuance range. King Jack is just outside of it, but if you look really closely at this, there is actually a trace of orange here. And when we look at the EV, we can see that it's very, very close between folding and 4-betting in this spot. It thinks that calling is a bit losing, like half a big blind worse in this rake structure. I don't think this is exactly the right rake structure for the game we're playing in, but it is a 100 NL rake structure, probably based on PokerStars. So it thinks the hand is just a bit too weak to be doing anything with against the 11 big blind 3-bet. This one's slightly smaller, so maybe a bit closer. But the point here is that the EVs are running close between 4-betting and folding, right? So if we just examine 4-bet for now, if we do go ahead and 4-bet here, what is the small blind response supposed to look like? Well, they're meant to be jamming at some frequency with their medium pairs here, 8s, 7s, 6s, ace-5 suited, ace-4 suited are like the bluff denial jams here. They're even jamming a bit of ace-queen off. They're jamming 10s always. They're jamming king-jack suited. They're jamming queen-jack suited at some frequency. This is not what's happening, guys, right? There is no way in hell we can expect the EV of our choice here to resemble closely the EV values in the solver, given that the opponent's strategy in this nitty pool is likely on average so different to this. They are folding more than this, they're not flatting as much as this probably, and they're definitely not jamming and re-denying that equity as much as they should be. So again, if you go back to our option here and you look at the options laid out and their EVs, you don't just look at the box and say it's grey, therefore you should be folding, but you really look at these EVs down here, you can see that it would take absolutely nothing at all. It's balanced on a knife edge. Imagine you have like a needle and you go outside and balance it on like on a wall or something like that, like half off the wall, and you've like positioned this needle there, and then you go back inside your house, and then weather comes along, right? There's like some kind of wind or there's some kind of rain or whatever happens. Like that's going to be gone in the morning, right? It's going to be somewhere else probably, or you place a piece of grass somewhere outside. It's going to take very little for the position of that thing to change because it's balanced on nothing. It's weightless, right? And that's what this choice is here. It's so on a knife edge, in theory, that in real life it takes absolutely no movement whatsoever to just blow that out of the water and just make it different. So in this spot, it doesn't really make sense. In a vacuum here, our priority is to maximize EV in a vacuum, which I believe it should be. Big believer in that. We should 4-bet. And when we pick our sizing here, you can ask yourself as well, will it matter how big we go? If we go 23.7, which is a bit small, right, for the connoisseurs of copying solvers, they're going to say, it's a giant bit too small. GTO Lizard likes to make it 25.9 BBs. And I say to those people, shut up. Use your brain. Turn on the exploitative frequency, wavelength of your brain. most people who are multi-tabling, who are grinding this out, who are rake racing, who are multi-tabling, I've said that already, I'm tired, it's been a long day, they're not reactive to that sort of change in sizing. If I had kings here, I'd have gone like 25. Now, can I do that ad infinitum? Can I do that against you now that you've watched this video and you know what I'm up to here? Maybe not. But if I'm truly trying to maximize EV, I'm in a big pool, I'm in like a situation where I won't encounter the same opponent again in this spot for like another 4 weeks because it's like a live 1-3 game or something. I'm playing 25 in Zoom. You know, I'm playing games like this, like you guys are playing. Do I care about that? No. I care about maximizing EV against each and every human, each and every time we have the opportunity. So always 4-betting this hand and always 4-betting smaller. I just can't see how you guys can prove me wrong that this isn't just the best play. Is there eventually a repercussion? Yeah, maybe. Is that happening anytime soon? No. Is that as relevant as just harvesting the extra EV? No. Did it work? More importantly, did it get through, right? Because that's the true hallmark of a good play, of course. The answer is that it did work. But that's not the point. The point is it will work more often than it needs to. We'll get jammed on less often than we need to. The hands that are meant to be jamming, like sixes, are going to be flatting or folding. Hands like Queen Jack suited are meant to be jamming and making us fold the best hand are going to be flatting, dominated, or folding, giving us the whole pot. I know I'm labouring this one hand, but you're not indifferent here. And if you're not indifferent here, think about all the post-flop spots where you're not indifferent. So put that RNG away. Let's look at another spot. Here's a spot that I'm pretty sure is going to be a mix in GTO. It might not be. But what's important is that in GTO, the frequencies, the EV of the options here for us on the turn are going to be very similar, I think. So we have 9s here. We flatted a 3-bet from an unknown sort of player, 26 VPIP. Could be a reg, could be a recreational. Looks like the sort of semi-reg type at least. There's a lot of like semi-regs here in this pool that are way weaker than really studied players, but playing like a reggier PFR VPIP preflop. And the 3 of hearts comes after we peel the flop. And villain decides to check. And if we look this up in a solver, what we'd probably see is that as long as we bet kind of small, betting's okay, and checking is also okay. Now, what are the chances that this desk that I'm sitting at right now and your desk have the same number of atoms in them? Have a think about that. The answer is there's 0 chance that this desk and your desk have the same number of atoms in them. It's basically infinitesimally small, right? But the EVs to be the same in the solver as they are here, the chances of that are also infinitesimally small. It follows from that one line is better than the other, and if you, my friends, are serious regs that purport to have an edge in your game post-rake, then you are serious regs who are beating your game pre-rake for 9 BB per 100 in this case, 10 BB per 100. Like, you're absolutely brutalizing the game, right? And if you want to do that, you have to fancy yourself to be able to figure out what's best here. To roll this spot in my mind is abominable. It's like some sort of sin against the true EV gods. And you shouldn't do it. But I see people roll here all the time. I see people making content who are good poker players advocate rolling here, clicking their RNGs. I see streamers do this. I see YouTubers do this. I see poker players do this. Some of them might be playing in high stakes games where they truly don't think they have an edge and don't think that they can pick a line that takes advantage of their opponent's strategy or that there's a front runner line in terms of EV. Okay, fine, fair enough. You know, but for most of you watching this, bet is better than check here. I'm very sure of it. Why is that? Because one, if we check, the difference between the GTO world and this world is that I think River's going to get underbluffed. I don't think the pool is going to be bluffing the river here often enough if we check back. Secondly, if we bet, I don't think they're going to be raising enough. I just basically think they're giving up here a lot. They're just too passive, too tight in the spot, right? That's the overall read, and that has certain ramifications for different lines by us. If we check, I've already talked about the river. If we bet, I don't think they raise. I don't think they bluff raise us. I don't think they make us fold the best hand ever. I don't think they're trapping very often here when they check this turn card. I think they're going to play very face up, and they're going to just be folding a lot of equity that isn't investing if we check. So if they have king queen here, I don't think they're applying enough pressure on river. I think they're folding the turn, but protecting equity. I'm a big fan of just aggressing for value / protection in spots like this where people are not protecting their range. And obviously our hand is not great. We can't go big here. That'd be a polarization mistake. We just want to go kind of small. And look, I take the edge off that bet. I think about betting 11 because I clicked the B33 button. Then I remember that I'm a human with a free-thinking mind, and I remember that I'm not being oppressed by solver overlords. Sometimes I have to remind myself of that little pinch to wake up and realize that the solver overlords are just in my memory. They're not real. They can't hurt me anymore. Now that I've come out the GTO cave, guys, they can't hurt me. And I just dial the bet down, because I'm like, hey, do you know what? If this dude has queens, and is just freaked out by the heart, or aces, and is freaked out by the heart, and is going to call me or raise me, I'd just rather not lose 1150. I'd rather lose 9. Maybe I should go 8. Maybe I should go 7. Maybe I could dial this down even more and get calls from ace-king with no heart. Maybe this isn't even the best true EV line, but it's better than checking, and it's a hell of a lot better than rolling. Because rolling an RNG here is like rolling a dice when you wake up in the morning, and if you roll a 1, you take the cheese grater and grate off a piece of your face. That's what it's like to roll check here, because check is inferior to bet here. Just like grating your face with a cheese grater is inferior to not doing that. But you don't roll that in life, because in life you're not totally fucking insane. In poker, some of you guys are a bit nuts. I have to tell you, you're a bit nuts. So this in my mind is a clear bet in this pool, and rolling is nonsensical. It's silly. Okay, let's check out another example. So we enter another humdrum kind of boring spot, the sort of spot that flies under everybody's radar. I love the boring spots, guys, because they're like this opportunity to be a vulture and just harvest all the EV. King 6 deuce, we have ace 9, whatever, right? Solver land, probably mostly checking this combo. We think about betting, we think about checking. We decide that we quite like check against the nitty looking variety. Expect them to play somewhat straightforwardly if this guy's a bit looser, you know. Sometimes the probe range can be a bit crazy. But just checking for a bit of transparency here. We might bluff later, we might not. Depends on the run out, I think it's fine. We get to this turn node where we turn the top pair, and villain checks rather quickly. And what's different here to in GTO is that in GTO they're going to be very tricky trappy, and they're going to check raise a set of 6s and deuces and ace-x and stuff like. They're going to check ace-queen, they're going to check ace-5 all the time, pretty much. They're going to check a king. In real life, they bet more mergy, right? So weaker opponents, like a non-full stacked 18 VPIP player, they're going to do things like betting their ace-10 a lot on the turn, right? Not always, but they're going to do that a lot more. So the other thing that's going to happen here is if we check back, I don't think people take a stab at this sort of run out very often at all who have an 18 VPIP. I don't think they're bluffing the river very much. So GTO is going to check back. Sometimes it's going to invite the overbet and stuff like that, the overbet bluff, and it's going to capitalize and call. Sometimes it's going to invite the block with the ace-x. It's going to raise the block on the clean river, get value that way. Things like this are going to happen. But in real life, just betting big here just has to be the best line, because the opponents check the more merged range of more sort of draws than GTO would check probably, because it's usually leading its draws here. And also going to be King X, Ace X that's weaker rather than stronger, because they're going to lead more top to bottom, right? They're going to lead the top hands before the bottom hands. They're going to lead Ace Queen and check Ace 4 and stuff like that. Whereas the solver will check Ace Queen at a fair frequency. So in my mind, they're so much more capped here that I'm taking this hand. It's a clear mix in GTO. Like Ace 9 is a mix in GTO, right? There's no way, if you look up a sim here, that one line is better than the other with this hand. It's not going to care whether you like B whatever or check. It's not going to care whether you bet small, bet big, or check. I'd imagine it doesn't bet small very often on this node. But I don't know, the ace is a bit polarizing for the opponent, but probably not. Probably in position it just bets bigger checks. Anyway, I'm rambling. It's not close. We should just do this. So we decide to bet here. And it feels really mundane, right? Like I'm just talking about boring spots. But when you actually start thinking in this way, it's quite curious. It's almost like every decision now matters. What's their range here? Well, I think it's still mostly King X, Ace X. I don't think they've called this turn with much stuff worse than a king. I could go for value here. But against the nitty type, whom this looks to be, I think it's a bit dicier to get value here. That said, people will be probably check calling. And yeah, I think people will be check calling like flush draws more than GTO will, which will just be like leading them or check raising them and stuff like that. There's King X and Ace X of hearts out there too. And I think people get a bit nitty on the heart river here. So I opted not to value bet this node, even though we are beating Ace 5, Ace 7, Ace 3, Ace 8, and some King X. I don't know. You could argue with that. Maybe you could argue for like a true EV value bet here. I don't think it will be in GTO, but you could argue for it here maybe. But I mainly wanted to talk about the turn there. Here's a spot that's just super interesting, right? We have the Jack 9 in the big blind. We flat a button open from a short stack again. Low VPET recreational player, very common pattern we're seeing here. People that have like the pre-flop chart selected, so don't end up playing ridiculous hands pre, but then don't know how to play poker still. Very common player type on GG. So we check the flop here, and they check back, and in game theory, the check back range is going to have aces in it. It is. It's going to have pocket aces in it. It's going to have pocket kings in it. It's going to have a bunch of 8x. It's going to have flush draws, 4 or 5 maybe occasionally. This range doesn't really have these hands as often, right? So it's mainly weighted towards nothing. Ace high, king 10. Stuff it just doesn't like. Me not like flop, me check is the most common thought process here. We have Jack 9. We have an unfavorable turn card. We have a turn card on which we're probably meant to play overbets and check raises and check folds and check calls and not really much else, right? In GTO, I would think. The queen is like that, right? Queen is very much button's card. We're not meant to do a lot of leading for small here. I don't care about that. I don't care about my toolkit. I don't care about like this overlord like deity that's just waiting for me to like not copy GTO and reprimand me. I used to care about that. When you go back in time and you look at like the way I would play on stream 3 years ago, it's way too like that. If you go back even further, it's even more like that, right? It was definitely like an emerging from a cocoon kind of thing that happened the last couple of years. I don't care about any of that. So I just block. Because I'm like, okay, well, if he has king 10, he's just going to fold. If he has ace 7, he's just going to fold. If he has ace 10, he's going to fold. If he has deuces, he might fold. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. If he has 4s, he might fold. Maybe not. 5s, who knows? If he has a queen, he's not going to fold. He doesn't have 10s, 9s, aces, 8, 7, ace 8, flush draw. I don't have to worry about those hands. They're not really there. What am I doing here? I'm hand reading. I'm range reading. I'm trying to come up with the best play. Which in my mind is a little stab. Because this is super overfolded. He's meant to defend like 80% of his range here. 75% of his range. He's meant to defend super often in position to this. I probably have 40% fold equity or something. Like, it's through the roof. It really is, guys. If I check, maybe he'll check back a lot and I'll be able to bluff forever. Or maybe he'll stab because he was checked 2 twice. I don't know. I just know that this is printing in this pool against a tight recreational. I'm just always doing this. It's the best play. I don't want to go bigger because I'm running into a more polar range. It's either a queen or nothing. I'm hand reading. Again, I'm hand reading, right? I'm a big believer in this play. Because it worked. That's why I believe in it. But no, I really think this is a super cool opportunity to just say, middle finger to the solver. Don't care what the toolkit is. Don't care what I'm meant to be probing. I mean, you can know what that strategy is, right? You can know what good poker looks like so that you can refuse it. You can know what solid, objectively sound poker looks like so you can say, no thanks. I'm going to go my own way here because my opponent's range is different. His reactions are different. Copying GTO and rolling. I mean, GTO is just pure checking this hand, I think. No, it's not. It's got a gutter, so it's actually rolling here. It's going for big bets. It's going for overbet check. It's overbetting a bunch. Copying that here just feels to me like a terrible play when the opponent either has a queen or nothing. I'll be honest, guys, when I was playing this hand, I didn't even realize I had a gut shot. I just thought I had jack high, and I was like, this is still winning. So even if this turn was like, even if I had, I don't know, jack 5 here, or jack 7 here, I would still probe third pot on the turn. It doesn't actually matter. The point is that the fold equity is obscenely high in spots like this. And they're common spots, so they do matter and they do add up. Alright, so we have the 10-7 of clubs in the BB. We call. We flop a bad gutter. Villain's going to go for bet here, I think. They go for a bet. We can call, we can raise. The front runner line in GTO on this particular board could still be raise. I think there are boards where raise does way better. Like the boards where they have to defend like loads of naked ace high and king high. I think raise does really, really well. Because this is a board that lends itself a bit more naturally to defense, right? You have gut shots galore. You have the jack x, 9x, 5x, a fair bet compared to some lower board. It's harder to hit. I don't know for a fact that raise is best with this combo here. I think call and raise are, I think it's hard for me to tell. One is better than the other against the human for sure. I just don't know which one it is here. I'm not actually that sure. Or maybe it's a bit closer. But they don't have the same EV, right? Let's just accept that. So we check the turn here. We've made a double gutter. We get there on the river with the bottom end of that gutter. We make the effective nuts because queen 10 is very likely to bet the turn. Very, very likely. Look at it illuminating our cards there in case we were an idiot and didn't know what straight was. It was like, look, you made a straight. You don't just have 10 high. You're allowed to value bet. Look at them helping the fish that didn't know they had a straight. Look at them helping them lose their money slower. They're so lovely like that. They're so nice, right? Gotta love them. Benevolent people. So now we're going to go ahead and almost auto B150 because the old Pete is like, oh, B150 is in my toolkit here. Oh. And then new Pete is like, fuck you, man. Shut up. And old Pete's like, oh, why are you so mean? And new Pete's like, because if you bet bigger than that, like that, it's going to be the same reaction. There's a guy, random reg, I think that's Malaysian flag, I don't know. Random player, don't know them. 23 VPIP. GG reg, whatever. Probably not one of the top GG regs at the stake because those are more known to me. I don't know, I don't want to say like for sure which flags belong to which players at which skill levels, but there's some patterns there, you know. Demographics from different countries, shall we say. Unlikely to be that skilled a player, unlikely to be reactive to sizing. Even if they're a skilled player, they're still unlikely to be that reactive to the difference between 13 and 15.7. Could I dial this up further? Probably. Could I go 16.7? Probably. Am I squeezing the lemon enough here? Maybe not. What am I trying to get called by? Two pair that just hit Jack 8, 9, 8, 6, 7, 8, 5, King 8, King X, just King X, Ace Jack that doesn't believe me. Oftentimes when people believe you, they fold, and when they don't, they call. They don't go, oh, well, you bet 15.7 instead of 13.7, so now I have changed my belief on whether you've got it or not. They don't do that, right? So against humans, there's no question in my mind here, as we sit here today, recording this near the end of July, you're watching it sometime in August. There's no question in my mind that this is better than what I was about to do. So you can actually see the evolution there as I go to do this. I've almost pressed the button. I'm like, wait a minute. And this is the growth, right? This is the evolution of like the true EV brain thinking through a spot. Could I have gone bigger? Maybe. Was that the best sizing? Maybe not. Is that a good call? No. Because like loads of my bluffs just got there and I'm probably under bluffing for that sizing because I need to be bluffing a ton for that sizing. Is that a good call? No. But are they going to make it? Sure, because they don't believe you. They just see an overbet. They want to call it. They don't mind like the you went 15.7. They're not taking that as an invitation to fold, but they would have called 13.7. They're inelastic, right? So stop using predefined bet sizes. Stop pressing the B150 button and saying, that's my game. That's my strategy. Everyone has main character syndrome, as my friend Axra says. Everybody is like, that's my strategy that I've built to be balanced in this way. That's what I do. I've simplified the game for myself. It's like, great, man. You simplified the game for yourself and just threw away EV for no reason because you can't be bothered to hand read or think about your opponent's strategy. It's an epidemic, man, seriously. So, yeah, this is a video that might cause a bit of a stir, I hope. There might be like some people in the comments being like, oh, it's too much to think about in poker, you should just mix. I get that a lot, you know? There's too much to think about already, I need to simplify. Really? Is it that difficult once you've decided you want to go huge for value here to just dial it up a little bit? Is that so sapping of your energy? I get that it's an extra step and it's a new habit to form, but here's an idea, right? People are obsessed with a game plan. Like, I build a game plan, I build a solid strategy, and I execute it. And that makes the game easier for me, and because that's based on theory, I know it's solid and I won't get exploited, right? In this whole line of argument. And it's nonsense. Because you can just build a game plan that's exploitative for the game that you play in, right? You can have your own sort of playbook that's exploitative, that is, when I'm bluffing here, I dial that down from B150 to B110, and when I'm value betting, I dial it up to B165, or wherever we went here. Like subtle, small adjustments that are going to pay dividends in the long run and could be the difference between success and failure ultimately in a game where margins of winning pre-rakeback are thin these days, right? In games like this. Most people are not winning in this game, like at all. Even regs who are working hard are surviving in rake races, you know. It's a hostile poker climate in lots of ways. And you can say don't play on GG, etc. Guys, I play Zoom for content. I'm not saying this is necessary where you should play. I'm just saying if you want to try and beat games with softer players and high rake, you've got to take every single edge that you can, right? You've got to stop playing defensively and inwardly. You've got to get rid of that main character syndrome. No one knows what your range is. Let's look at one more spot before we wrap up. today's lesson. Okay, so we're squeezing ace-queen offsuit, right? Got our 31 VPIP. I'm going to make a video about how to play like a aggro lag style in games like this that are too tight and like try and run it over. I'm going to make a video about that soon as well. Let me know if you're interested in that in the comments. Like this video, by the way, if you liked it, it does help. Also check out Carrot Corner for more stuff if you like what you see. So we got called by the cold caller, who's a recreational player, and we decided to bet the flop, which is fine. And then on the turn, I want you to have a look at this again, right? Look at our turn cursoring here. Look at our mouse cursor. Cursoring is my new term. I start studying a student's cursoring. B60. Hit the B60 button. Why? Because it's a normal sizing for this spot. You could go bigger. You could go pot. You could go B80. The solver's not going to care because it's going to rig the game so that like all those bigger sizes are fine here. It won't like tiny bets here probably. At least maybe it will with some hands. But we decided to bluff because they called flop quickly. They called pre. They're drowning in 10s, 9s, 7s, 6s, 5s. We know recreational players call the flop too wide as well. So they can also just have like, I don't know, ace 5 of spades. So I like betting turn here. I think it's right. But just watch the cursoring. We just dial it down a bit. Did we dial it down enough? Maybe not. Maybe we could have dialed it down more. Why did we dial it down a bit? Because we're bluffing. Because if we run into pocket jacks, if we run into king jack, if we run into ace king, if we run into king queen or pocket eights or pocket fours or a draw that wants to jam on us, we just lose less money. Because we're bet folding. Did villain's jamming range? They did jam here. Did villain's range for jamming here change because we went 23.5 instead of 26.5? Was that the trigger? No, evidently not. You'd have to be insane to think that that mattered, right? And we just lost less money. We lost a hand, but we lost way less money. 3 big blinds is a lot of money, right? Over and over again. If you get this right in each and every spot you play, those 3 big blinds add up. You play 100 spots like this, it's 300 big blinds you just saved. And you will play 100 spots like this in a couple of months, you know? Then there'll be other spots that aren't like this, where you also think about true EV. Well, guys, that's kind of all I've got to say. I think this has been really just preaching today from the hymn sheet of editor. Drum roll, please. True EV. I've said it before. I'll say it again. This is what you need to do to wake up and do better at poker. Sizing is a wonderful way of doing it. Like just getting that sizing, just dialing that dial up or down, squeezing that lemon, getting all that juice out there, that lovely EV juice. Great way of doing it. You're not indifferent in any spot that you play, really, against a human. You're not. Sometimes it's hard to tell which line is better, sometimes it's not. But the better you get at trying to do it, the better you'll get at it. Stop being lazy. I don't buy into this culture of mixing. I don't buy into this culture of let me just simplify my own game so that I can know what I'm doing and feel secure in myself. I feel like it's a sort of egotistical, inward focus. It's not that they're arrogant, people who do that, but they're very inwardly focused. They're paranoid. They're insecure. A lot of the time, they're not ravenous enough. They're not outward enough. They're not seizing the day enough. So, you know, let's do a big carpe diem to true EV and to sizing and dialing it up or down, really thinking and realizing we're not indifferent. And I'll just ask you again, what are the chances that this video on YouTube and the next video you watch are going to be of exactly the same length down to the second? Almost 0. Let me know if that does happen though. But that's the same chances as you being indifferent in some spot. So try and figure it out. It's carrotcorner.com for all of our stuff. Let me know what you think of this one. And I'll see you soon. Bye guys.